Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for.
All right, everybody. I'm back. Gonna be back. Want to go ahead and do a little bit of an update on a very interesting story at a school that has become fascinating over the last couple weeks. That is the school that you can see on your screen right there. I'm talking about the Indiana Hoosiers and their basketball program, okay? So listen, bottom line, Indiana, I think you kind of know both sides of the story, but what was it, about five and a half weeks ago that Mike Woodson officially announces his retirement. Now, none of us actually think it was a retirement. He was kind of forced out. The situation was not good. Fans were upset. They were calling for him to be fired. And so basically to save face, he basically announced, yeah, I'm retiring, and there's going to be some, severance package to get him out the door, whatever, blah, 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 blah. What has become interesting, though, is that, Indiana can't stop winning games. So they obviously won against Washington on, Saturday afternoon. They are now 4-1 in their last 5. I think if the NCAA tournaments started today, if the bracket was released today, Indiana would very much be in the NCAA tournament, in my opinion. And they got 2 games left in the regular season to determine just what they need to do in Indianapolis for the Big Ten tournament. At Oregon on Tuesday, then they return with a quick return against Ohio State on Saturday. End of the day, though, bottom line, as we all know, is that basically, look, no matter when Indiana's season, no matter where it ends, let me backtrack. No matter where it ends and no matter when it ends, whether it is in the Big Ten tournament, whether it's in the NCAA tournament, whether it's in the Final Four, whether it's with Indiana cutting down the nets for their first national championship since 1987, although that would certainly be interesting if Mike Woodson would maybe keep his job at that point. Whenever the season's done, Mike Woodson's gone. So that's a long-winded way of me saying that we need to talk about this coaching search, okay? Because the team on the court is phenomenal. They deserve praise for turning the season around, but there's going to be a new man on the sidelines when Indiana takes the floor next season. And so we've talked a lot about this coaching search. We've talked about a ton of different candidates, but there is one name that we actually haven't hit on that all of a sudden, listen, I'm not here to say he's a definitive candidate. He's definitively leaving where he's at, and he is definitively taking the Indiana coaching job. But a guy that I thought 2-3 weeks ago was not even in the pool of candidates. I've done some digging. There's some information that has come out that every Indiana fan knows over the last couple days. And because of it, I think we got to talk about TJ Otzelberger, the head coach at Iowa State. Excuse me, not the Indiana coach, the Iowa State coach. And is he actually a realistic candidate for this job? So let's go ahead and dive in. Again, if you are new to the channel, or even if you're not new to the channel, you probably know we have talked quite a bit about the Indiana job. And frankly, at this point, we've talked about every candidate. We talked about Brad Stevens before he quote unquote withdrew his name. Talked about Dusty May before he signed his contract extension. We've talked a ton about Chris Beard. I still stand by the fact that if you offer Chris Beard this job, he would accept it. And we've talked about some of the other guys, the Ben McCollums, whatever. But Otzelberger just wasn't a guy that we did not discuss. And it's not because he's not a great coach. Like, he is a phenomenal coach. Iowa State just smacked Arizona at home the other night. They've dealt with injuries, but they were a top 10 team in the preseason, coming off a Sweet 16 appearance, 2 Sweet 16s in 3 years. And Otzelberger is very much trending to be, frankly, maybe the best coach in Iowa State history. Why I bring it up, though, wasn't a candidate, in my opinion, and it was for 2 pretty obvious reasons. The first one, as you know, his personal ties to the school. He, of course, was an assistant coach there. I don't think that really matters, but he met his wife there. His wife played basketball there. They're very comfortable in that community. And I think that's the first reason why I think most people did not consider him a viable candidate for this job. The other reason, and I think every Indiana fan knows this is why, to me, forget the family stuff. The family stuff I think is always overrated, but I just bring it up because the real reason that I did not personally, until about 2 or 3 weeks ago, consider TJ Otzelberger a candidate is because of the fact that he had this crazy buyout. It's like $18 million. And listen, I'm just here to tell you, in 2025, as we enter the rev share era, as we enter a world where the school is directly going to have to pay $20 million a year to student athletes, I'm just here to tell you that, like, there's no scenario where any school is paying an $18 million buyout to get a new head coach. And we've been through it. 18 million plus you got to pay the old guy. What, you know, we're going to have to pay Woodson something, 18 to get Otzelberger. You're going to have to give him a base salary. He's going to have to hire his assistant coaches. I just said there's no way it's going to happen. Well, I bring it up because over the last couple days, the piece of news that we got to get to right now that to me is absolutely fascinating is the fact that TJ Otzelberger has not only signed an extension at Iowa State. You'd think that's bad, but this is the important part. Signed the extension at Iowa State, but the new contract now completely changes his buyout with the Cyclones. Okay, by the way, I should have mentioned this earlier, but make sure you're following on Twitter our Torres on Indiana account, Torres on Indiana. We got all sorts of news about the games, the coverage of the coaching search, on and on. Torres on Indiana. But let's get to that new contract because, again, January 1st, he signed it. The details kind of trickled out over the last couple weeks. I think the interesting piece of news that has to be discussed is the fact that his buyout is now way lower than it was. So this was the interesting piece of news. Buyout is now $4 million. More than basically a 75% discount on TJ Otzelberger's buyout. Okay, everything must go. It's an everything must go sale for TJ Otzelberger because it's 75% off to get him out of his contract at Iowa State. And so to me, that is a fascinating nugget that makes him absolutely a candidate for the Indiana job or any high-profile job, because at the end of the day, while no school is going to pay $18 million to buy a coach out of his contract, they'll pay $4 million to get him out of his contract. And oh, by the way, his salary at Iowa State is reasonable as well. $4 million a year salary, $4 million buyout. So listen, I'll let Scott Dolson get into all the mathematics of it all. Listen, I'm not a math major, but you know, you give him $6 million in a contract. That's a 33% raise from what he's getting at Iowa State. Not to mention the fact that that buyout is much more manageable. And so to me, I think this is an absolutely crucial nugget worth noting. And I just go back to a very simple question. Why does this happen and why does it happen now? Because at the end of the day, look, listen, I can say this, is that if you are somebody that is totally happy with your situation, you might get a raise as part of a new contract. But the counter to that is, you don't have to negotiate the buyout down. And I look at somebody like Nate Oates. Nate Oates has like a $17, $18 million buyout himself. And when he was asked about, the buyout a few years ago when he signed the extension, I believe he signed his second extension actually last spring. Signed one in 2023 when they won the SEC. Yeah, I think it was 2022. Take the back. Signed his first one in 2022. Then he signed another one last year. And when he was asked about why is the buyout so big, you're backing yourself into a corner, he basically said, look, I was a high school basketball coach, like not that long ago. And so to me, the idea of getting paid $4, $5, $6 million, whatever he's getting paid to coach basketball, like I'm happy here. This is where I want to be. I don't need to be anywhere else. I don't need to use this place as leverage because I already got it. And so to me, I got everything that I want here. This is where I want to be. I don't care about the buyout because I don't want to leave. Well, I bring it up because with Otzelberger, the timing doesn't make sense unless you're at least willing to listen to other coaching jobs. And when I think about Otzelberger, think about it, right? He just signed the extension. So if you want to sit there and say he doesn't want to leave, well, you can sign the extension and you can get your raise without the buyout going up. But the counter to that is, why would you bring your buyout down unless you want the possibility and the opportunity to look at other jobs at some point? It makes no sense. The timing makes no sense. If he was 100% happy, why do you negotiate a lower buyout? As a matter of fact, I guarantee that was probably the number one thing that Iowa State pushed back on the most. We'll give you more money. You keep winning us games and making us money, but how about we keep that buyout at 18? And he's probably like, no, I want it a little bit lower. So to me, this feels important. This feels significant. And I guess what I would say is, if I'm Indiana, I'm full speed ahead. I just think the timing is too weird. You signed this extension in January, and I know it was probably agreed upon, 6 months ago, but you signed it in January. and you change the biggest parameter that would keep you from leaving that job, I just think it's something worth watching. I think it's something worth monitoring. I think it's something worth paying attention to, because to me, this is a total game changer. Listen, if Otzelberger actually is available, all I'll say is he's probably my number one candidate. Now, listen, I would still argue probably Chris Beard. I would still argue, whatever. There's other good candidates. But if you can realistically get TJ Otzelberger, I think it's something you have to consider. Guy has won at Iowa State. The guy won at South Dakota State. He was at UNLV too. I don't blame him for not winning there. It's a mess over there. I live on the West Coast. I know a little bit about it. I just bring it up because he wins everywhere. I know, by the way, some of the other candidates do as well. Chris Beard wins everywhere, whatever. But I'm also just like, damn, man, I don't know. This timing is weird. The situation's weird. And how many other jobs would you realistically leave Iowa State for? I think Indiana's one. In the Big Ten, the resources are through the roof. We talked about it a few days ago, but Scott Dolson has acknowledged we're going to give as much money to NIL in this rev share world as any school in college sports. So I just bring it up. Just something to keep your eye on, because to me, this doesn't feel like nothing as far as I'm concerned. Tell you what, if you enjoyed this video, do me a quick favor. Make sure you're subscribed to the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos going up every single day. You better be following our Torres on Indiana account for all your late breaking Indiana news.